You are standing in the thick, cold mud of Wall Street. The year is 1870. You own absolutely nothing. No money, no family, no powerful friends. But you know something Cornelius Vanderbilt doesn't. Exactly what the next decade will bring. You know that steel rails will conquer this continent. For everyone else, the future is a terrifying gamble. For you, the next 30 years are a clearly printed map. You know exactly where the tracks will go. You know which companies will soar. You know which banks will collapse. How will you use this completely unfair advantage to build an empire? Right now, the Transcontinental Railroad has just been completed. The entire nation is obsessed with westward expansion. Everyone wants a massive piece of the Iron Horse, but you are not going to lay a single mile of track. Building railroads is far too expensive and incredibly dangerous. You are going to play the players. You walk into a chaotic, cigar smoke-filled brokerage house. You desperately need starting capital. You remember a tiny detail from an old history book. You remember the infamous Erie Railway War. You know the ruthless Jay Gould is about to manipulate the stock price. You know exactly when it will drop. You find a desperate, overworked broker. You offer to sweep floors and run messages for a week. You earn just enough to buy a cheap, poorly fitted suit. With your new suit, you walk into a local bank. You speak with absolute, terrifying confidence. You secure a small, high-interest margin loan. You take that borrowed cash straight to the stock exchange. You short the Erie Railway stock right before the manipulation begins. The other wealthy traders laugh at you. They think you are a complete fool for betting against the current market trend. A week later, the stock plummets exactly as you knew it would. The laughter stops immediately. You walk out of that room with $10,000 in cash. In 1870, that is a massive fortune, but it is not a monopoly. You immediately leave New York City. You take a crowded passenger train heading west toward the empty plains. You are looking for a very specific patch of dirt. History tells you the exact route the new Northern Pacific Railway will eventually take. You arrive at a desolate, completely empty river crossing. It looks entirely worthless to the naked eye. You use your $10,000 to buy thousands of acres of this empty land. The local farmers gladly take your money. They think you are absolutely crazy. For 2 long years, you sit on this empty dirt. You build a small wooden cabin. You wait patiently while the world continues to spin blindly around you. Then, the wealthy surveying crews finally arrive. The railroad executives have this is the only logical place to cross the river. They desperately need your land to connect their network. They offer you double what you originally paid. You refuse without hesitating. They offer you triple. You refuse again. You calmly demand an astronomical sum and a permanent percentage of all future freight fees. The railroad executives are absolutely furious. They threaten to build the heavy tracks completely around your property. But you know the local geography makes that impossible. They have absolutely no choice but to deal with you. They finally sign the papers and pay your exact price. You are now sitting on a massive war chest of over $200,000, but a dark, violent storm is gathering on the historical horizon. It is the summer of 1873. The national economy feels completely unstoppable. Everyone is borrowing massive amounts of money to build more railroad tracks. But you know a catastrophic event is only weeks away. You know that J. Cook and Company, the nation's most powerful bank, is secretly insolvent. You know the panic of 1873 is about to wipe out millions of people. You immediately liquidate every single financial asset you own. You convert everything to solid, heavy gold bars. You lock that gold securely inside a heavy iron safe. You wait quietly in your dark office while the intense summer heat bears down. In September, the devastating news finally breaks across the telegraph wires. J. Cook and Company has completely failed. The entire stock market crashes violently. The New York Stock Exchange shuts its heavy doors for 10 straight days. Financial panic sweeps across the entire country like a wildfire. Massive railroad companies go bankrupt almost overnight. Fortunes built over decades vanish in a single bloody afternoon on Wall Street. Desperate business owners are begging in the streets for cash. They are selling their prime assets for pennies on the dollar. This is exactly what you were waiting for. You slowly open your heavy iron safe. You walk into the smoking ruins of the American economy with your bags of gold. You are the only man with actual liquidity. You buy up bankrupt, half-finished rail lines for a tiny fraction of their original cost. You buy the deep coal mines that feed the giant trains. You buy the smoking steel mills that forge the iron tracks. You do not just own a single railroad line. You own the entire massive supply chain. You completely control the fuel, the metal, and the transportation itself. Over the next 5 years, the broken economy slowly recovers. Your previously half-finished rail lines are now complete. Your new trains are running perfectly on schedule across the country. Your competitors are buried under mountains of unforgiving debt. You have absolutely no debt. You begin to systematically squeeze the smaller regional lines completely out of business. You dramatically lower your freight rates until they simply cannot compete with your scale. Once they inevitably declare bankruptcy, you buy their tracks for practically nothing. Your empire expands like a living, breathing organism. By 1885, your monopoly is absolute and terrifying. You control the movement of golden grain from the Midwest. You control the movement of black coal from the eastern mountains. If a desperate farmer wants to sell his wheat, he pays you. If a massive factory wants to burn coal, it pays you a premium. You are effectively collecting a permanent tax on the entire American economy. You are repeatedly invited to lavish, exclusive dinners in New York. The wealthy men who once laughed at you now fear you. You are arguably more powerful than the federal government itself. But you know that all monopolies eventually face a brutal reckoning. You know that strict antitrust laws are coming in the next decade. You need a permanent, highly profitable exit strategy. You arrange a massive, highly secret meeting with JP Morgan. You offer to sell your entire consolidated empire to his financial syndicate. The closed-door negotiations are brutal and deeply exhausting. But Morgan recognizes the absolute, undeniable control you hold over the nation. He finally agrees to your strict terms. You sign the largest private financial contract in American history. You walk away from the massive oak table with a staggering sum of liquid money. Your total assets acquired? A complete continental railroad network, vast coal mines, and massive steel mills. Your final estimated net worth in the late 19th century? Over $150 million. In today's modern money, you are sitting on over $30 billion. You started with absolutely nothing in the cold mud of Wall Street. You used the invisible power of future knowledge to conquer an entire era. You never built a single train yourself. You never swung a single heavy hammer. You just made the right decisions at the exact right time. For everyone else, the future is uncertain. For you, the next 100 years are already written. Would you have the nerve to play the game?